baby. And we gotta keep it hype. Represent it for life. You know how we do it. Woo! Hey. Jacksonville Jags. We don't mean to brag, but when we on the field, we got it in the bag. Jacksonville Jags. You know how we ball. Best believe it. Got the people screaming out, Duval. Jacksonville Jags. We don't mean to brag, but when we on the field, we got it in the bag. Jacksonville Jags. You know how we ball. Best believe it. Got the people screaming out, Duval. Okay, Jacksonville Jaguars. Too much for your crew.
And what's going on, everybody? Welcome back into Club Jaguar. We are back after a 3-week hiatus. And guys, just give me a little bit of a break, okay? I'm trying to get used to understanding how to be a dad. So far, everything's going good. But I left YouTube kind of out to dry for a whole week. But we're back. Content's going to be back. We have, of course, free agency that first wave wrapped up last week. Now they're kind of getting some scraps out here. The Jaguars made a move today, signed a left tackle. Also, an old Jaguars left tackle, Cam Robinson, signed over to the Houston Texans, which, of course, we can talk about. But, of course, I will go ahead and bring in my co-host, one guy that, we bring in mainly to raise the floor of this podcast. We have Jordan DeLugo. What's up, Jordan?
Raising the floor, man. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to take that a little bit as an insult.
No, absolutely not, man. It's all about raising the floor. We got to get the right personalities into this ecosystem to be able to make things flow.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that, raising the floor. I have a feeling we're going to talk about that a lot. I wanted to say that song always gets me pumped up. Wanted to also say, welcome to being a dad. UCF Dad War, absolutely love it. You've called your dad that before, right? Haven't you?
Yeah, I think my dad is UCF Dad War, so I think I'm still UCF Jaguar, so he'll be UCF Sun War. How about that?
Okay, love it.
But whatever. I mean, whatever people want to say, hey, we'll accept it, right?
Yeah.
So next person we want to go ahead and bring into this ecosystem, we have Jason from Jaguars United. What's up, Jason?
If Jordan raises the floor, does that mean I raise the the ceiling of the podcast?
Well, let's just say this. I don't treat you guys like free agent editions. I'm gonna treat you guys like draft editions, okay? Because you guys aren't bargain bin podcasters. You guys are what's going to be able to take us to the next level, right?
Gotcha. Yeah, that's good save. Good save.
Well, yeah.
Also, it's like you got a little son there, Jason.
Well, I was at TPC every day of TPC. So yes, I was burning like a crisp. And Dalton, if you need any tips on parenting, just let me know. I can just like any questions you have, I'd be more than happy to help you out.
I mean, I just might need to stay over with you for a week just to get some of the bachelor living, TPC, golfing.
That's right.
Video games till midnight. I mean, sometimes I just need that lifestyle again, Jason.
Hey, it's a good one. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. But sweet, man. Yeah, so we got a lot to talk about. Obviously, we haven't talked too much about free agency. So I know kind of the general consensus was that a lot of Jaguar fans, I think, were a little bit underwhelmed because, I know we bring up a lot of names like, Javon Holland was a guy. I mean, Chris Godwin, everyone wanted Cooper Kupp, a bunch of big names out there, but the Jaguars didn't really land a lot of them. So I know they definitely went and got a lot of quantity. They went and shored up a lot of, seemingly needs. So, I guess, Jordan, what were your, overall impressions of how the Jaguars handled free agency with this new regime?
I was honestly a little surprised that they didn't make at least a swing, right? They didn't do any big money signings. I mean, Patrick McCary at 13.5 is the biggest money signing that they made. And I think a lot of folks kind of, not locally, but nationally kind of raised their eyebrows a little bit at McCary getting that much and Jordan Lewis getting $10 million. And my impressions were, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt until they show me that they shouldn't get the benefit of the doubt. But quite frankly, this is not how I would have handled free agency for the Jaguars.
Interesting. What about you, Jason?
Yeah, I'm interested. I kind of agree with Jordan there. I'm interested to see kind of what they're going to do with this, because obviously they have a plan. Obviously they have a vision for how they want the team to look. I wasn't expecting these types of additions, but I guess until we see them out on the field, until we see them in their positions where they're going to be playing, it's obvious that they have a different vision for the tight end room. That's for sure. You kind of hope that Baselli is involved in the offensive line decisions with the guys they've brought in, which is probably a good thing. Obviously, there's still the big holes there at wide receiver, potentially, a defensive lineman, still offensive line. I mean, it's been addressed a bit, but the draft will, I hope, give us a little bit more insight. And they look like they want to build this team through the draft with their talent. So let's see what they can do.
Yeah, and I know for myself, I'm not trying to be super critical of the staff right now, especially the new regime, because we were all excited about the hires, and we're at the point where it's like, okay, let's trust them until the results on the field start to show, and then all of a sudden we're like, okay, we're back to back losing seasons again. Like, okay, now we can start really being critical. But I know it is a little bit perplexing because you got a lot worse at wide receiver. I mean, losing Christian Kirk, you also lose Devin Duvernay, which obviously wasn't much, but you fill with De'Ami Brown. I mean, you got worse there seemingly on paper. I think the only position I think you really got any better at after free agency was the interior of the offensive line. I mean, you get rid of. I mean, obviously Mitch Morse retired. Brandon Sheriff might be on his way to retirement. I haven't seen him sign with another team. I don't know if anybody is interested in him, but you get a new starting right guard and Patrick McCarry. Also center Robert Hainsey, who if worse comes to worse, if you don't find a center on day 2 of the draft, he'll be starting for you. But definitely perplexing. I mean, there were some moves that I would have liked to have made. I think if I could have changed anything, I would have probably gone out there and gotten a better safety. I mean, I would have spent the money on maybe a Javon Holland, or I even like the Justin Reed. I just not a huge fan of going after 30-year-old defensive backs at this time. But I don't know, like that's my main beef. I don't know with you, Jason. Is there anything like how you would have handled things differently? Maybe a player that you wish they would have gone out and got.
I'm still worried about the secondary because you can only pick one guy in the first round unless you manufacture a trade back up into it. But if we're saying no trades, then the secondary still is a little concerning to me. I mean, how much is Eric Murray an upgrade over Cisco? I mean, he could be. And then you look at Jordan Lewis, who a lot of people like. He definitely is an upgrade, but you still have issues across the board with Jarrian Jones now playing on the outside. I just don't know. I mean, maybe he can do it. You can't take a defensive back, a defensive tackle, and a wide receiver all with that 5 pick. So there's going to be a deficiency somewhere unless they just really think they can hit a late round receiver, like a lot of them have done in the past, or if they really believe in Jarrian Jones moving to the outside. I kind of cooled off of my 2025 expectations a bit, but we've talked about on this show a bunch. I'm okay with that. Like, let's just move the right direction. Let's build, and let's just see something that works.
Interesting. What about you, Jordan? Like, how would you have, I guess, handled this free agency differently? Is there a player you would have tried to go after? Is there a position you might have spent more money on? How would you have addressed it?
Honestly, what's funny about what you said is I kind of feel the opposite. Not Jason, but Dalton. I don't think that they got better on the interior of the offensive line. I think that they got better in the run game. I think they got a guy in here at center that knows the system a little bit because he was there last year with Liam Cohen. But I don't think Robert Hainsey is better than Mitch Morse. And I don't think that Patrick McCarry is better than Brandon Sheriff. I think they're both downgrades in pass pro and both slight upgrades in the run game. Now, the one thing I'll say about McCarry, I mean, the guy can play everywhere, and that is incredibly valuable. There's no question about it. When you have versatility, not only in your starting 5, but also with some of the backups that you have, like Fred Johnson, he's played guard as well. He has not just played left tackle. He has not just played right tackle. He's played guard. So when you start, and Ezra Cleveland, he played left tackle in college. Like, when you start to have versatility with some of the guys you have there, I think that is something you can be excited about. But overall, I don't think they're more talented on the interior of their offensive line. Will it look better? Will Patrick McCary and Robert Hainsey play better because they're in a better offense, coached better? Maybe. That may be the case. And then it'll kind of look like, well, Jordan was being critical for no reason. But you could also say Brandon Sheriff, if Mitch Morris hadn't retired, if Brandon Sheriff was still here, they both could have looked better in a better offense as well. And then at receiver, I'm not surprised they moved on from Christian Kirk. He was getting paid a ton of money. They actually got a draft pick back, even though it was a 2026 7th round pick, even though they were going to release him. And I think De'Ami Brown is a really good fit for what Liam Cohen wants to do. And I think he complements Brian Thomas Jr. really well. You look at what his skill set is. He's a speedster who has fairly reliable hands. He's a yak guy. He's a guy that was a screen merchant last year. And Liam Cohen has one of the most extensive screen games in the NFL as a play caller. And so you look at Brian Thomas Jr. being an effective yak guy, De'Ami Brown being an effective yak guy, and De'Ami Brown being someone that can stretch the field vertically, which obviously Brian Thomas Jr. can do. But when you're using Brian Thomas Jr. as more of a intermediate threat, because he's so versatile, he can do so much for you, De'Ami Brown can stretch the field and take attention away from him and make you have to respect that speed he has down the field. And I would be shocked if the Jaguars do not select a wide receiver in the first 3 rounds. They have 4 picks in the first 3 rounds. I think a wide receiver will come off the board for them. So I'm actually pretty excited about the receiver room potentially. And I'm pretty excited about the tight ends because I think Britton Strange has the ability to be a number 1. And I think Munt and Hunter Long are very good blocking tight ends. And that's exactly what Liam Cohen wants. So I think you have a balanced room there. I think Britton Strange, when given the opportunities last year to catch passes, showed what he can do. And then I do completely agree about the secondary. I think that if they were entering training camp right now, it would be kind of like shuffling between Jordan Lewis and Jarian Jones, who's in the nickel and who's outside. And that might continue into the season based on matchups. I don't love that, right? Like Jarian Jones, the last 2 years of his career has been only slot, including college. And Jordan Lewis, the last 6 years of his career has been primarily playing in the slot. He has gone outside in a pinch when there's been injuries and not looked bad. I think Jarian Jones has the ability to play outside as well. So yes, it's okay. But would I have gone out and signed like a Carlton Davis? Yeah. And the other thing about it is with the Jaguars not spending money in free agency in terms of like bigger name guys and bigger numbers, to me, it doesn't really, it doesn't give you more flexibility long-term, the deals you've made than what you would have. Like, honestly, like you would have been signing guys to the same amount of years. Carlton Davis, you would have signed to 3 years. That's the same amount you signed for Jordan Lewis. Yes, it would have been more expensive over the first couple of years, but you get out after 2 years with either deal. So what's the difference? You could sign Javon Holland to a 3-year deal for $45 million. I know that's double what Eric Murray got, but I think he's more than double the player Eric Murray is. Drew Dahlman, same thing compared to Robert Hainsey. So these are the types of things that don't make sense to me because you're not going to have any big money deals coming up next year from within your own roster outside of maybe Trayvon Walker. And that deal is not going to hit the cap until 2027, which is when you can get out of all these deals that you signed this year. So that's kind of my rant about free agency.
So I do want to backpedal a little bit because I know you said that you're actually excited about the wide receiver room. And I'm curious as to, because the Jaguars, their wide receiver room is basically down to like 3 legitimate players, and Brian Thomas Jr., Gabe Davis, and Parker Washington. I mean, unless you want to count, some of these guys that are, on and off the practice squad, like, should the Jaguars go out
I'm
there?
I'm excited about BTJ. Okay. I'm excited about De'Ami Brown. And Parker Washington, I'm mildly excited about.
So we're down to like 4 people. So there's still 2 holes there that you got to fill.
That's what's exciting.
Yeah.
I think that James Gladstone knows what he's doing with receivers. I think Liam Cohen does too. I think they're going to go get draft picks that are going to be good football players.
So Jason, do you share the same excitement about the wide receiver spot as Jordan?
I do not. Not where we sit right now, no. But I mean, if they bring in some explosive guys in the draft, then yeah, I mean, I would be pumped about that. But there's if we roll into the season with this, I mean, sure, they're going to add, let's say they add one in the 3rd round or later.
I think
I don't
they're
know
going
if
to do 2. I would make that bet right now.
I mean, maybe they do. Maybe they do bring in 2, but if it's a 3rd and like a 7th or like a 4th and a 5th, like I'm still not excited about the room because I'm not a huge
Even
believer.
without knowing who it is.
Like I said, but yeah, but I mean, if any player being drafted in the 3rd round or later, you can get excited all you want, but they're 3rd round or later for a reason. And yes, you could cherry pick.
Tell that to Cooper Kupp and Puka.
Yeah, I know. You can cherry pick receivers if you want, for sure. Well,
just look at the receivers they've drafted. Like James Gladstone has been a part of drafting. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, they also drafted guys that were not good. I mean, they had 14 picks a couple years ago, and they only hit on 3 of them. So, like,
I'm talking about receivers specifically.
Okay, right? Okay. So, again,
he comes from a group that knows how to scout receiver, I think.
And we hope. But I'm still not going to be excited. Like I will be optimistic and I will be hopeful. But if your top 4 are Brian Thomas Jr., Parker Washington, Gabe Davis, De'Ami Brown, and then throw in a rookie wide receiver in there, that's not that explosive as a group, especially when your tight end, who I know they don't use tight ends the same way as Evan Ingram, is Brenton Strange. And maybe they lean on the run a little bit more. Maybe they draft Ashton Genty and we completely change what we're doing. I don't know. But this is where I'm at now with the wide receiver room. If you were to stack it up against most teams in the NFL, they'd be toward the bottom. And I get it. Like they're going to be used more in the screen game. I get that. They want blocking wide receivers. I get that. And
the whole passing game is going to run through Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah. And we could be fine there. But I guess now that I'm like talking out loud, I'm excited about the receiver room because of Brian Thomas Jr. If you could,
would you be excited about Brown as like a 3rd receiver?
Yeah, I like De'Ami Brown, I mean, especially with what he did in the playoffs. Obviously, like what he did there. How can you not be excited about that? I just, I don't know if I'm excited about anything on this roster besides we're going a different direction than last year, I guess would be. Or Travis Hunter falls or Abdul Carter falls or something like that.
I just feel very strongly they're going to go get a good receiver in the draft. And maybe I'll eat crow and be wrong about that one. I feel pretty good about their plan at receiver.
I just get a little bit worried when it comes to how we kind of attack free agency that I like to say because there's a lot of positions that I think the Jaguars need to draft. Like I think we need another running back 1. I mean, I don't really feel that comfortable in Travis Etienne. Tank Bigsby could have potential, but I still think that we need a running back to fit the system. We obviously just talked about how we need a wide receiver, and I think that sometimes it feels like your wide receiver group might only be as good as your top 2 guys, right? I mean, you just saw T. Higgins, Jamar Chase sign, and I feel like you really got to get another really good guy on the other side of a Brian Thomas Jr. to really get the most out of that. I mean, you got to keep building the interior of your offensive line. I mean, you haven't drafted a meaningful player on the interior since Brandon Linder in 2014. Like, there's positions like the safety position. I don't know what's going on at safety right now. I mean, cornerback, I guess it's, might be kind of set right now. Although, there's people arguing about our players going to be playing out of position, and defensive line, you still need to address the interior. Like I would imagine that if the Jaguars are going to make another move at free agency, you got to get another 3rd edge rusher. I just get worried that like with the way we attack this free agency, like we really need to bat like 100%, especially in the first 4 rounds of the draft. And if James Gladstone wants to use some of that draft capital to start moving up in a 2nd or 3rd round, I just worry that we don't have enough draft capital to really make a big push. And I'm not saying like a Super Bowl, but I'd like to at least compete for the division. I don't want to go 7-10 and say, okay, that's fine for a first-year regime. I guess that's just how I look at it.
When I asked Shad earlier this year, what is the expectation? I asked him again.
Oh, nice humble brag there, Jordan.
Hey,
when I asked Shad, tell us, what did Shad say when you asked him?
He said it's the playoffs, and I think that is the goal, and that should be the expectation. And if this regime is not able to make the playoffs in year 1 with the type of talent that was already on the roster, with the free agency money that they had to spend, and they chose to spend this way. That was not an edict from Shad Khan that, oh, we need to pinch pennies. Shad Khan is the last man on earth as an owner that is going to tell you to pinch pennies in free agency. He will give you every resource you need. And then the draft. You have 10 draft picks. If they're not able to put together a roster that is going to compete to win the AFC South, be right there at the end for the AFC South crown in a down AFC South, the Texans have gotten worse. Okay. Cam Robinson is going to be their starting left tackle. I would have been much more encouraged about them if they had just said, we're going to roll with Blake Fisher, who we drafted in the second round last year, versus why you signed Cam Robinson. This is not a good division. You have the Colts talking about Daniel Jones competing with Anthony Richardson for the starting job. What are we doing here? And of course, the Titans are selecting 1 overall. And so this is a team that the expectation should be the playoffs. The expectation should be to win the division, quite frankly. And have they put themselves in position to do that so far? No, but the draft is going to say a lot about that. And free agency is not over. If they enter the draft and they don't get everything that they want, I do think that they will continue to add players in free agency, and there will be players to be had still that can help football teams win games. The other thing I want to say, and some people didn't like when I said this on my channel, when you have really good coaching, and I'm not saying that they definitely will. I think they will. We'll see. But when you do have really good coaching, it can make replacement level players look like good starters. And I think there's replacement level starters right now at safety and on the interior of the offensive line. Can the coaching elevate those positions? That's going to be a big part of it. I think they're betting that it can.
I got a question for both of you, and I guess this is probably where the Jags fans' mindset is right now. And obviously, tongue in cheek about Jordan talking to Shad. Jordan works harder than anybody I know on the Jags. So if anyone deserves to ask Shad question, it's Jordan. But I guess where Jags fans, I think where their brains are at is they added in free agency maybe 4 starters. 2 on offense, 2 on defense. You have De'Ami Brown. Is he a starter? Okay, we'll call him a starter. Maybe 3 on offense. De'Ami Brown on offense. Robert Haney, Patrick McCarry on offense. Okay. On defense, right? You added Eric Murray and Jordan Lewis. So on a team that won 4 games, and that was terrible, terrible, terrible last year, in free agency, you only added 4 starters, 4.5 starters on the entire roster out of 22. How many starters do you think they will add in the draft?
Wow.
I think that they'll add a starting wide receiver. I think that they'll add a starting safety. It's possible they add a starting running back.
What about starting center? I could see that.
And I think if they go Mason Graham, no. To me, Robert Hainsey, they signed him to be their starter this year. I don't think you pay a guy $7+ million to be a backup at center. Now, interior defensive line, it's interesting because you do have Eric Armstead, you do have Devon Hamilton, you do have Mason Smith. But if you draft a guy in the first 2 rounds, I think he's a starter. And I think they will.
Yeah, but I feel like when you draft defensive line, I mean, they're in the rotation, right? Like it's not, I mean, these guys cycle in and out. And it's just, if you draft a guy, it almost seems like all of them are starters in a sense that you got a good, healthy rotation where there's not guys getting too many snaps. But yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, I would like Jordan. I'd like to come away with another big-time wide receiver. Running back is something that I definitely. It sucks because picked up ETN's 5th-year option. Tank Bigsby was like a 3rd-round pick, but it just feels like we had to get better at that spot, and we got to, and ETN. If it stays the way it is now, I would think that Tank Bigsby is running back 1. With the way kind of things were last year, and yeah, like. You could come away, I think, with 2 new starting safeties, but I don't know. I would probably say
they won't. Eric Murray's going to start for them.
Is that so? I don't know a lot about Eric Murray, but I know when we signed a 31-year-old safety that was basically replaced at Houston, it's not something that gets me really exciting. Is he How do you feel about Eric Murray?
I think he's a replacement level starter.
What does that
But
mean?
I think he's going
What
to
does
start.
that mean?
That means he can start for a team. He's probably, there's 64 starting safeties in the league. He's probably one of, top 64 in the league. But, he's not average or above average. I think he's
See, with
probably
this-
below average among the starters in the league from a talent standpoint. But even a guy like him in a really good defense, if that's what the Jaguars have, which we have no idea. Last year with the Texans, he had 8 pass breakups and 2 interceptions. So, like, if he gets that type of production, and he's also somebody who can create stops and make big tackles in space, so you have somebody who can do that. But that's all going to depend on the coaching and something about the talent level in the back end of the defense last year. They were more talented than they played. That's a more
fair.
talented group than they played.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Can this group be coached in a way and play in a way where they play up to their talent level?
So that's the question. And so, like, let's be generous and give them, because I don't think they're replacing running back 1 in the draft. Unless it's Ashton Genty, I don't think anyone they draft is taking the job from Tank Bigsby or Etienne. Did they get in the rotation?
Not in year 1.
Yes, exactly. So if you add 4 starters in the draft, being generous, you have 4 starters in free agency. That's 8 of your 22 that are different from last year. You combine that with a different coaching scheme. Is that enough to win the division?
I think it would be.
I mean, again, this was a team that
not
for moral victories. They were close in so many games. I mean, I think even if you had the same roster as last year with slightly better coaching, they're probably a 500 team.
And you even look at the Texans. I mean, the Texans from 2023 to 2024, I mean, roster-wise, they got a lot better. But you could argue that they were actually better in 2023, especially like the tail end where they were kind of playing, kind of with nothing to lose. They were just kind of winning. So I know when you look at them, there probably are question marks as to like, and I really question their roster building because last season they were getting killed on the offensive line. I mean, they had one of the worst offensive lines. And I don't think they did anything to get better. Like, so
they're going to be worse at tackle, and they're going to be worse on the interior unless they knock it out of the park in the draft.
And also, they traded away a 2nd-round pick for Stephon Diggs, who was a 1-year rental. So I question them right now, and especially with how it feels like they went backwards last year with a better roster. Like, is their coaching all that great? Is CJ Stroud going to be able to continue to go forward with their offensive line? And then now, you look at the Jaguars, and you would definitely figure we're going to get a bump from coaching staff, especially from the defensive coaching staff. I mean, Ryan Nielsen was just awful. I mean, there were coverage busts all over the place, like the crazy rotations that they had. And then
the offensive coaching was horrible too.
Yeah, that's the thing. You go back to offensive coaching, and especially now that the year's wrapped up, and I think even after seeing the NFLPA report that came out, like that how basically Doug Peterson was checked out. I think that just goes back to like, probably the culture inside the building. Like I don't think him and Balky had a very good working relationship at all. Even Mio O'Brien said on 1010XL that like the Javon Foster pick was like something that the coaches didn't have on their radar. And he comes in and like they knew from day one that he wasn't going to be good. So it's just so much disconnect. It feels like they were just basically out there showing up for a payday. So, I mean, you got to think that coaching all over the place is going to get better, which should elevate the play on the field to a better area. And hopefully we also stay healthy and Trevor Lawrence can take the next step. So, I mean, I guess that's the hope, right?
Yeah, again, I'm not trying to be a pessimist. I just kind of want to be. I'm okay with the Jags being not a playoff team this year. I'm okay with that. I think that they will build in the right direction and build up to be good. I just think Jags fans are expecting a playoff run right out of the gate.
Well, and that's what your owner tells you. I mean, what
you're right, and you're right. But I mean, what owner is going to come out and say we're not going for the playoffs? I mean, if you come out as an owner and you're like, nah, we want to just like be better than last year, but we don't want to be like the best, you probably shouldn't be an owner. Like if it's something that they're all going to say. And then you look at the people that you lost. I mean, Yes, Cisco was bad. Yes, Cam Robinson was bad. You lost Evan Ingram. Christian Kirk didn't have a great season this year, but that's a big detriment to the roster, losing a guy like Christian Kirk. Ezra Cleveland. I mean, you had some like big people gone now who, yes, weren't good last year. So that's my point. But I just don't know if this team, and I'm okay with it, as it looks right now before the draft, is not one of the worst rosters as of now in the National Football League, which I'm okay with right now. But I when you stack this roster up with other rosters, I don't know.
disagree about that. I don't think they're one of the best rosters. I think they're probably middle of the road, but they have the tackle positions and the edge positions in good shape, in my opinion.
Okay.
They have a CB1, in my opinion. They have a top 10 receiver at worst, in my opinion. They have a top 10 quarterback, in my opinion. So you start to put those pieces together, and there's a ceiling there with the level of talent if you can get the rest of the guys to play at a average starting level.
So, Jason, I actually have a question for both of y'all, but I'll start with Jason. What is your best case scenario for the Jaguars in 2025?
It's hard to, I mean, I would love for them to make the playoffs for sure. And like maybe they again, if they add Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, and like I'm gonna just say Ashton Genty. I know people don't care, but if they were to add one of those three guys, I think this roster looks completely different, like completely different. You add Mason Graham, I think it's a lot better. And I mean, there's ways to be better, but we're looking at a jump from 4 wins. Like,
how many games do you think they should have won last year? I mean, at least 6 or 7.
Maybe won
right?
6 to 8 if the bounces went their way. But like, okay, so 8 on the high end. I'm hoping they're better.
So let's say they were a 6-win team last year. They should have been a 6-win team.
Should have been a 6-win team. I think that's fair to say. To say.
So then what is the jump from that?
So if you're better by 2 wins with a first-year coaching staff, with incredibly young guys who've never done it before, which is a factor that it is what it is. And
you can tell that by what happened in free agency.
I mean, these guys have never done it before. They could be good, but in most industries, including sports, professional sports, knowing what you're doing helps a little bit. So if they get to 8 wins, does 8 win you the division? And if it does win you the division, does it give you a run in the playoffs? And again, this is just what I'm kind of expecting. But I say all this to say year 2, 3, and 4 with these guys, I think they could blow it out of the water. I just don't know about next year. It's the only thing I'm saying.
Yeah. And I guess for you, Jordan, best case scenario for the Jaguars, then I'll go.
Well, I mean, I think best case scenario is probably like divisional round, but is best case scenario the most likely scenario? No, it's not the most likely scenario. The way the roster looks right now, it's really difficult to say because I think they will be I'm not going to pretend I know how Anthony Campanile really is going to be as a defensive coordinator. I'm not. But I can say I feel very confident in Liam Cohen calling plays. Yeah. We've seen that work at a very high level. I'm confident that he's going to know how to help Trevor Lawrence take some off his plate, get the ball out of his hands quickly, get it to Brian Thomas Jr., get it to Travis Etienne in space, get it to Tank Bigsby in space. Use those run blocking tight ends. Use those interior offensive linemen who are better run blockers. I think the offense is going to be a lot better. I think it's going to be a lot better. So I think the realistic expectation right now is 8. We'll see what happens in the draft.
Yeah, and I know for myself, I mean, I think my dream scenario is to kind of be the 2024 Tampa Bay Buccaneers where you win the division in a weak division. You know what I mean? Like they went 10-7, and the way they did it was scoring a lot of points on offense, right? Being a really, really good offensive attack and kind of being held back by the defense. it's kind of where I'm hoping the Jaguars are at, because like I think it'd be a lot of fun scoring 28 plus points per game and being in shootouts and ultimately losing because maybe the secondary isn't good enough. But and I think the big thing is, like, you got to win games against the AFC South, right? I mean, the AFC South wasn't good last year. I don't like, and even though the Texans, I mean, they won a playoff game against the Chargers, but when you actually look at their season last year, they only had one regular season win against a team with a winning record, right? So they were just kind of beating up on bad teams, and they couldn't ever, they beat the Buffalo Bills in week 5. So it's not a tough division. I mean, I think the Titans are going to be bad for another year. There's no telling with the Colts. I mean, Chris Ballard he's hanging on a thread, and he's finally spent some money. Like, usually he's been like bargain bid Ballard where he hasn't been spending money, but he did allocate some money to the secondary. But, they have the whole quarterback competition going on with Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. So they still seem to be kind of all in on 2025. And if things don't work out, then they're probably getting rid of the head coach, quarterback, and GM, and they're starting fresh. So yeah, I think right now it's probably Jaguars versus Texans, and you have to finally win those games.
Can't count out the Colts.
I do understand that, but
I think bringing in Lou Anarumo is a big deal as their defensive coordinator. Getting rid of Gus Bradley, who Trevor Lawrence owned, absolutely owned. I think that's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what the Indianapolis Colts become, but I don't know. I just think it's mainly like you probably got to take care of business against the Texans, but yeah, you've got to start winning your divisional games. I mean, the Jaguars haven't beat the Texans at home since 2017. Like, they got to break that. I mean, that crap kind of has to go, because we, of course, flex all about how, the Colts haven't won here since 2014. Well, we haven't beat the Texans here since 2017, and we got to kind of take ownership of that series and, finally get a good sweep in here. But yeah, I think that's what it kind of comes down to. And I think that's my dream scenario, is that the Jaguars can win the AFC South. I don't mind if it's a first round exit, but just be a team that offensively you're scoring some points, that you're seeing Trevor Lawrence get into, have build weeks after week of like really good games, instead of like having a good game and then the next week he has a bad game, but we make excuses because the offensive line was bad or play design was bad. And
I don't think it's about making excuses. I think it really was the coaching and the pieces around him.
I mean, I agree. I mean, I
really do.
I am ultimately a Trevor Lawrence apologist, but some people can take it as what happened, but some people take it as excuses, and I'm tired of going on a limb and defending him, because I just want the coaching staff to be able to finally put him in a position where, look, he has a wide receiver 1 now, right? Like, I hope the protection actually held up pretty well last year for the most part. It started off a little shaky, but the pocket turned out to be there. But of course, the receiving options were going down. Gabe Davis was bad and kind of unavailable. Christian Kirk, of course, got hurt too, and Evan Ingram was out for a bunch of games at the beginning of the year, so that wasn't good. But hopefully now we go back and Liam Cohen can get the best out of him, make things easier for him, because that's one thing that he did with Baker Mayfield, was just simplifying things a little bit more and
get the ball out of his hands quick.
Yeah,
and they had a good run game, very good run game.
Yeah,
yep.
And
that was a team that had the 31st or 32nd ranked run game the year before Liam Cohen got there.
But how do they turn it around? By investing in more offensive linemen?
Well, these linemen they brought in are run blocking linemen. Even when you look
the only real change they made to the offensive line last year was adding Barton in the draft and putting Robert Hainsey on the bench. But
so let's go get our guy in the second round.
But so really it was schematic. And it was Liam Cohen adapting his offense to the players that they had, because he came in and he was going to be running more zone team stuff. And they ended up being a gap team, a gap power team down the stretch. And because that was what worked, and that kind of became their bread and butter. And so I do think one thing Liam Cohen will do is adapt to his players and make it easier for the quarterback to execute at a high level. I feel very strongly about that.
Yeah.
I'm going to flip it back for a second. This is the last pessimistic thing I'm going to say. Last thing.
Let's hear it.
And then I will be all optimistic. Okay, I don't know. I'm going to say whatever I think. Sorry about that. But like, at what point is like winning a dog shit AFC South not the goal anymore? You know, like, oh, 8-9 wins could win the AFC South. We could get in the playoffs. We could get hot. We could get hot at the end. Like at what point are we like, no, we need to be one of the best teams in the AFC? Like,
in my opinion, this is the last year that's an acceptable goal.
That's fair.
I mean, I think you had to start winning consecutive division championships, right? I mean, we get lucky if we win one every now and then, right? I mean, we won one in 2022 because the Titans imploded. You know, 2017 happened and another weak AFC South. I mean, the problem with us is like we come third place in the AFC South and everyone in the AFC South sucks, you know? So, I mean, I think you got to start owning your division and winning back. Like right now, the Ravens, if they win the AFC North, they don't really give a crap because they win it all the time and they just can't take the next step and get to the Super Bowl. Like the Jaguars have to be the team that, you know, like the Bills kind of own the AFC East now. We have to own the AFC South and, you know, kind of take the regular season as just something we had to do to get ready for the playoffs. Because I think right now everybody kind of Sharpies the Chiefs in for the AFC West. They Sharpie the Bills in for the AFC East. Everyone kind of already puts the Ravens at least in the playoffs already. Like we have to be the team that everybody expects just year in, year out is in the playoffs. And we are so far from that right now. I think the Jaguars, we have to win at least 2 or 3 in a row to actually be able to earn that respect. Because right now, if you ask all the national people who's going to win the AFC South next year, probably 90% of them are going to say the Houston Texans because they've won it twice in a row. Right now, the Jaguars, Colts, and Titans are a mess until they aren't a mess, right? You got to actually start winning games and turn around that perception. And you've got to just go start winning it, right? So right now, everybody is so excited to win the AFC South because we get a home playoff game. And like, how many home playoff games have we had the last like 20 years? What's it been? 2? Like, it's unprecedented times when, you know, you have the Chiefs that they just have it every year. It's nothing new for them.
So who wins the Super Bowl first? Gardner Minshew or the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Gardner Minshew's on the Chiefs, so probably.
You know, I would say Minshew just to be safe, obviously. But
I mean, he'll join
on the
Blaine
Chiefs
Gabbert,
as a
Chad
whole,
Henne.
I think the Chiefs kind of need to hit some home runs in the draft this year. They were outclassed in a big way by the Eagles. And I know the Eagles lost some talent, but they're still one of the most talented teams in football. And they're probably going to hit it out of the park in the draft. And they were able to kind of plug some holes as well in free agency. So Chiefs got some work to do. I think the Bills got a lot better in free agency too.
Yeah.
The Bills, I mean, I get a lot of respect for them because last year they totally turned over that roster.
Yep.
And they came back and just boom, they're right back in it. It's like, man,
yeah.
like, could you imagine being able to do that?
Imagine having
I wouldn't even stress about losing Christian Kirk.
Imagine having an elite quarterback. That's wild.
Would be fun, right?
Yeah.
So Tekken threw in a $5 donation. He says, am I the only one who thinks Mason Graham is a boring pick? He's good. I know Gladstone wants D-line, but Graham is not as impactful as Genty or Hunter. And I know I can respond to that and you guys can, but look at the Super Bowl and let me know if it's boring to have a really good defensive line.
They also had a really good running back.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Saquon Barkley was the MVP of the NFL last year. He did that behind.
No, I believe Josh Allen was, sir.
An elite. No, my MVP.
Oh, it's Jordan's MVP.
Oh, it's Jordan's MVP. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a
He was my MVP. Clearly, like without question.
Running backs for people too, right?
Yeah. But
I mean, running backs
he also
did
that behind an elite offensive line.
Running backs are making a comeback, dude. Like, I don't understand why. I don't want to get on this. But
the only thing I would say about Genty.
Why is Ashton Genty not in consideration at number 5? In every mock draft, he's number 6 to the Raiders. Oh, he's not good enough for 5, but he's good enough for 6.
Right.
It's crazy.
The only thing I would say is this draft has so many good running backs. And are any of them as good as Ashton Genty? Are any of them close to as good as Ashton Genty? In my opinion, no, absolutely not. So I'm with you, man. And
We
I
got
would have
one.
felt a lot
We got
better
one.
about that if they got after it better in free agency.
Bro, you wouldn't even need a second wide receiver. You have Ashton Genty. You're going
I'm
to get
not
an
talking
8-man
about
box
receiver.
every snap. You're getting an 8-man box, and then you can run
Yeah.
Brian Thomas Jr. anywhere you want. You can run
I'm really
De'Ami
talking
Brown
about
wherever
the
you want.
offensive line.
Yeah, exactly.
They should have done a better job on the offensive line, in my opinion. And then you could take Ashton Genty, and you still could. You still could. There's no question.
I want to ask you guys something. So I know like one thing that this is being compared to a lot is the 2017 NFL draft, right? With running backs. Everybody was saying Leonard Fournette, boom, best running back out there. You know who went after Leonard Fournette? Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, Kareem Hunt. So could this be another case of maybe Genty not being the best running back and maybe waiting and Scattaboo or RJ Harvey become the best?
No
chance.
No, I'm not saying no chance. It'd be ridiculous to say that, but to compare Ashton Genty's game at the top of the NFL draft to what Leonard Fournette was coming out, that's what I think is a ridiculous thing to do. And look, I liked Lenny. He was rare size, speed combination, but Ashton Genty does it all. He's been doing it all at a very high level for a very long time. Literally, like what's so special about him is the completeness of his game. He has the ability, the vision, and the patience and the ability to press the hole behind the line of scrimmage, whether he's running gap or zone, outside zone, all the way into like freaking halfback gut, right? Like he's got it all. And then at the second level, once he gets past the line of scrimmage, he is one of the best tackle breaking backs I've ever seen. He's also got all the creativity in the world, and he's got legitimate like 4.4 speed, and he's a muscle hamster. He's low to the ground. He's hard to hit. He's hard to get a clean shot on. And he's great in pass protection. He's got really good hands. So when you're talking about having an offensive engine like that in the run game combined with Brian Thomas Jr. and Trevor Lawrence, yeah, it does make a lot of sense to me. I'm not out on it at all. I'd be fired up about it. Is it the pick I would make? I don't know.
Well, it's not an answer.
Well,
that's not an answer. That's the fence riding Jordan we all love right there.
I've been saying Mason Graham because I think you can get a really good running back a little bit later. And I also think you have
the injuries. What's up with the injuries on Mason Graham? I don't mean to cut you off, but like you're in it more than me, Jordan. You're in deep. I'm seeing stuff about injuries on Mason Graham. Is that something that because I would also be stoked on Mason Graham? Are the injuries on him something we should be worried about?
I don't think so. He's supposed to participate in his pro day. So I mean, it's not like he's missed time, extensive time. I'm not worried about that. And the thing about him being under 300 pounds, he did not play at under 300 pounds. He lost weight training, right? You're training to look like the best athlete you possibly can, not to play football. You're going to put that weight back on during the offseason. I think there's no question about that. So, look, just my rankings on this class at the top of the class, it's Travis Hunter, it's Ashton Genty, and it's Abdul Carter is my top three. Mason Graham is number 4.
So
and that's not Jaguars specific. That is league wide. Like,
and you know what? I agree with that.
Just objective rankings.
I agree with that.
Now, again, the value proposition of defensive interior versus running back. If Mason Graham is an average player and Ashton Genty ends up being an elite player, then you have egg on your face. But you can say it the other way around too. I think they're both really good prospects. I think that Mason Graham plays a more valuable position overall. And it's a tough decision to make, in my opinion. Now, I think the Jaguars, as a kind of analytical thinking organization, they're going to think that they can find value at the running back position later. That's what I think.
Now, do you guys agree with me for being pissed off that we beat the Titans twice instead of just once and dropped from number 1 to number 5 overall? If we had just split with the Titans, we'd be drafting number 1 overall in the draft. Y'all realize that?
And what, trade back to 5?
No, we stay there and get one of these true blue chip. I mean, you could the Jaguars.
You might still be able to.
You really think Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter are going to drop to number 5?
I said that Ashton Genty's a true blue chip.
I hope
they're not going to do that. With you know they're not going to do that though.
If the Jags were at 1, they'd trade out. They would trade out for someone that wanted Cam Ward. So
I agree.
Whoever that,
or they trade back 2 spots, pick up draft capital, and they're still able to get Abdul Carter. Or
no, your point remains the same. It does.
Would I rather have the number 1 pick? Yes, I would.
We got a guy that can draft receivers in the 5th round. We're good. What are you guys worried about, dude? We're gonna get Puka Nacua in the 6th round. What are you worried about? What pick we have?
By the way, I did have a day 2 grade on Puka. Check the receipts.
Send us the receipts because I don't believe.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't ride the fence on him too.
No, a lot of folks did.
He could
had
be
some
a
injury
day
issues
2. He could be undrafted.
Nah,
I'm just kidding.
Cooper Kupp, I wasn't as high on, but obviously ended up being a stud. And that's another thing I would like the Jags fans to think about. It doesn't necessarily have to be an outside receiver to complement Brian Thomas Jr. in this draft. If they get somebody who can just move around the formation, maybe does play 50+% of his snaps in the slot, that can work too. Because De'Ami Brown is primarily been an outside receiver in his career. Brian Thomas Jr., outside receiver as well. So if you get somebody who can dominate from the slot, a la Cooper Kupp, and Puka Nacua plays from the slot a lot too. I think that's something to keep in mind. It doesn't have to be Tedero McMillan or some like 6'4", 215-pound receiver to complement BTJ.
So I know right now a lot of guys, Jaguars drafted number 5 overall. So there's kind of like a handful of guys that people are mocking to the Jaguars. Jordan, is there anybody that like when they mock somebody to the Jaguars, you're like, nah, they're not going to do that?
Yeah, Jalen Walker.
Yeah, I just saw that recently.
Yeah, I got to make a video about that.
Let's take an edge
tomorrow.
Let's take an edge at 5. Unless it's Abdul
not
Carter.
Only an edge.
Abdul Carter, I'll take him.
Jalen Walker, he doesn't have any sort of like prototypical edge traits or production for me or refinement as a pass rusher or as an edge setter for me to say, yeah, like absolutely. To me, he's a positionless player right now, and that can be a good thing if you know how to unleash him, but I am not taking that at 5.
What about, I know Pete Prisco recently marked Armand Mimbo to the Jaguars, offensive tackle from Missouri.
I think it's a little early. I would take Will Campbell over Armand Mimbo.
If you take a Will Campbell, are you moving him to guard? I know there's some talk about.
Yeah, he's playing guard this year. And then, maybe once Walker Little's contract is up and you have to pay Anton Harrison, maybe you say, hey, do we want to move him out to tackle at that point? But yeah, he's playing guard right now.
I think that's what Philly did with I forget what the tackle's name was, but played him at interior 1 year, then moved him out.
Fred Johnson? Yeah, maybe.
Fred
Johnson played guard. He's going to take Ezra Cleveland's job.
I would
book it right now.
If it was me and I was taking Will Campbell this year, I would probably put Hainsey on the bench and move McCary to center and let Will Campbell play guard.
Yeah. So do you think do you think that 2 quarterbacks are going to go before the Jaguars pick?
Yes.
Yep.
Do you think trades are going to happen in order for that to happen?
No.
Because I feel like
I think it's quarterback 1, 2.
Because I kind of feel the same, man. Like, because I just can't Titans had number 1 pick. Like, you don't know when you're gonna have the number 1 pick again. I imagine they go Cam Ward. They want to get their quarterback. And then the Browns number 2. I don't know why people are thinking that they're not. They have obviously you have Abdul Carter, Myles Garrett. That's an absolutely nasty, two defensive end combo, but like they're in no place to pass on a quarterback either. Like they are an absolute mess with Deshaun
Russell
Watson.
Wilson.
And
that's a good point.
Did Russell Wilson sign with them?
No, but he visited.
He
also
Aaron
visited
Rodgers.
the team picking at number 3.
Aaron Rodgers is lingering too.
Here's an interesting question. Like, do you think that Russell Wilson played himself out of the Hall of Fame? Like, do you think he would have gone to the Hall of Fame if his career ended with the Seahawks?
No. I think he's in the Hall of Very Good. His peak was excellent for a while, but I don't think he's
Tony Baselli's.
I think Russell Wilson is
not the same level.
I think he does.
Not the same level of player. Tony Baselli at his height was the best tackle in football.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson was never the best quarterback in football, or close to it, really.
Yeah, but quarterbacks get in a lot easier than tackles.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to make the Hall of Fame.
I think it'll be close. I don't know. I'm not willing to commit, but I think it'll be close.
I don't think he will.
Vince
I think he played himself out of
here.
it.
What do you know?
I think he played himself out of it, honestly, because I think now Russell Wilson is kind of seen as kind of a joke.
Travis says Russell Wilson handshake Eli Manning. Eli got 2 of them.
And he beat the GOAT, right? In both of them.
And his last name is Manning.
Yeah.
And he's great on ESPN.
Yeah. Love him. Love Eli.
Yeah, the Manning cat.
He's also just more liked than Russell, I think. Right?
Yeah. I know a lot of players didn't really like him much. But yeah, we're interested to see how I'm really excited for the draft. I know probably, next show we'll start talking a little bit more about draft, just different guys to look out for, maybe different draft strategies. But yeah, there's Jaguars pick at number 5 overall. Lots of options there. I feel like when I look at these mock drafts, there's nothing that I say like, no, the Jaguars aren't going to do that. everything, from a lot of Mason Grahams, a lot of Travis Hunter potentially falling. I don't see that happening. There's just no way that I don't think he gets past the Patriots. But
here's my thing about the draft with especially number 5. When you look at where the Jaguars spent money, they spent money on the interior of the offensive line. They spent money in the secondary. Where did they not spend money? Defensive line,
receiver.
Wide receiver.
Yeah. Running back.
That's where I'm looking. Quarterback. Yeah.
I will say I'm definitely glad that Ted McMillan did run, because I was a little bit like that he wasn't going to run obviously didn't run at the combine, wasn't going to do it at the pro day. I was like, does he have something to hide? But man, he has some speed. We know that now. So that one's definitely intriguing.
There's like the reporting of 4.48, but then like you hear from other people that it was really in the 4.5s. I don't care. Like he can play. He's a good football player. He wouldn't be my pick at 5, but I do think he should be like top 10, top 12 type of guy.
Yeah. We'll see.
Luther Burden is my wide receiver 1, by the way.
Luther Burden, is that right?
Yeah.
Why do you like him more than Ted McMillan?
I think he's obviously much more explosive. I think that he has more versatility in his game and his ability to be a 3-level threat. He can take the top off the defense. You can also give him the ball as a just under 6 feet, over 205 pounds. He's got a lot of muscle, especially in his lower half. He runs like a running back when he has the ball in his hands. Almost.
Is this Laviska Shenault?
No, absolutely not. He's actually explosive, and Laviska's not, unfortunately.
Who's better than Burden and Ted McMillan?
Who?
At wide receiver?
Yeah,
Travis Hunter.
Yes, Travis Hunter is my wide receiver 1. Excuse me.
Okay, that's funny because a second ago you said Luther Burden was your wide receiver 1. So I'm just a little confused on what you actually mean.
It's confusing because I don't know what Travis Hunter's doing.
I'm just kidding. I know.
Travis Hunter is my
Travis Hunter's in his own category, right?
Before.
Travis Hunter's in his own category. It's Travis Hunter, then it's wide receiver and cornerback rankings, right?
Yeah, he is my number 1 wide receiver, and at wide receiver, he is my number 1 prospect. If you could get him at 5. Oh my God.
Yeah. That's what we're praying for. That's what we're praying for.
Oh my God. Yeah. Travis asked about Matthew Golden. I think Golden is awesome. He doesn't have the most consistent hands. He's not the most physical, but I think he would have a lot of success in a Liam Cohen offense. I just don't see him as a top 5 pick, top 10 pick. And I don't think he plays to the 4.29 speed consistently. I think he looks more like a 4.4 guy, 4.3 to 4.35 to 4.4 type of guy. But yeah, he's a lot of fun. I wouldn't be mad if they traded down and took him, quite frankly. But Luther Burden's my top guy.
Well, guys, I think that we have successfully raised the floor of the Jaguars podcasting scene. Okay,
well, we had Jordan. Of course, we did.
Yeah, we're floor raisers out here. So, yeah, man, it's a good show. Also, guys, I didn't plug before. Jordan and Jason, their YouTube links are down below. Jordan is coming out with content like a man with his head on fire. Jordan, what else? What have you been posting? What do you got coming up on the Gin Jag YouTube channel?
Well, we had a video about Fred Johnson today, who apparently is going to be competing to start for the Jaguars, according to a lot of people in my YouTube comment section. He's taking Ezra
Cleveland's job. He is taking Ezra Cleveland's job.
Okay. I'm surprised you didn't throw Walker Little under the bus.
Yeah. No, they were saying actually Anton.
No, he can't. He can't block speed rushers on the edge. So I think the tackles are safe.
Yeah, I do too. But yeah, so we've been talking about. We broke down free agency and what those guys bring, and now kind of taking a look at some of the positions that the Jaguars didn't address very well or didn't address at all, and how they can fix those in the draft or potentially address those in the draft. It's kind of what I've been focused on this week.
Sweet. Well, Jason, what do you got coming up on Jaguars United?
I've been on vacay for a bit. I'm not gonna lie. I don't even know the last time I've done a show. Maybe a couple weeks. I don't miss it, but I will be back. So I don't know. Just make sure you're subscribed, and you'll get the notification. Hit the notification bell, and we'll talk nonsense like usual.
It's good stuff. So both their channels are down below. Also, guys, on your way out, if you guys can, please drop a like. Support the stream. Dropping likes, it makes the world go around. Okay, so appreciate everyone for being here. Linwood has a last question. Do you think the Jags trade 5th pick to Giants for 3rd? Get a quick yes or no out of you guys, and then we'll head out of here.
No.
Nope.
I don't think so either. Well, all right, guys. Appreciate it.
They're going to try to trade down. Sorry.
All right. I kind of agree. I tend to agree. Well, all right, guys. Appreciate everyone for being here. We'll catch you guys next time on Club Jaguar. Peace out.